In this video, we're going to be troubleshooting this gasoline auger made by Predator, usually sold by Harbor Freight, that's not starting. I'm going to be giving you some things that you can look for in case you have a different problem than mine, so stay tuned. This video is going to be action-packed all the way through. All right, so without further ado, let's dive right in. All right, so the first thing you're going to want to do when you're troubleshooting this thing should be obvious. Does it have any compression? Yes, you go ahead and pull that. It doesn't really pull real easy. You can feel that compression, so that is good on this. The next thing you're going to want to look at is the fuel lines. Are they cracked? Kind of bend them around. Do you see any little pinholes in them? If you do, these are junk. The kit that I'm going to use comes with new fuel lines, so I'm going to replace these again because the grommet and the fuel filter are still original. So if you have one of these inline spark testers like this, you can get these at Amazon, Harbor Freight. You'll want to know, do you have any spark? And just hook it up like that, and then go ahead and crank the engine, and you should see this neon bulb in here light up as it's sparking. Just make sure your ignition switch is on, otherwise you're going to get a false negative. So everything is pointing to the carburetor. Obviously make sure your fuel is good. When I said check the fuel lines, that includes in the tank. I have already sprayed starting fluid in the carburetor and I got it to pop off. So we're going to replace the carburetor. I'm not going to worry about trying to hunt down the parts for this particular carburetor, as a replacement carburetor is pretty cheap anyway. Alright, so you might have noticed earlier that the fuel lines were already replaced. Those original fuel lines were wasted. I mean, they came off in pieces, and they even stuck to the nipples where they go in the carburetor. Unfortunately, I didn't take any footage of all that stuff. And this is just a 4mm Allen head right here. Now these screws go all the way through, very similar to a Honda setup. Obviously, this is not a Honda. Let's get this throttle cable out of here. Just hold it with your finger, like so, and just take a 10mm wrench. Break that nut loose, and unthread that right there, like so, and just undo your fuel lines. Now, if these are your original fuel lines, you may have more struggling than that. Them things were glued on. I'm telling you, I've never seen anything like it. All right, so if you're having this same issue, chances are your fuel lines are bad too. So the kit that I'm using actually comes with new fuel lines, already the right size and everything else. So I'm just going to take this out and replace it. So hopefully your fuel lines are kind of intact enough to do this. So if you set them next to each other like this, you can kind of pre-adjust your length of your fuel line so that it matches about what the original was. So just go ahead and put this in the same way it came out, making sure that that clunk, you know, the fuel filter, is going this way in the tank. And also your vent is going to be this little short one right here. That one should be facing up. All right, now this part is going to take a little bit of patience. So I'm going to take a screwdriver and very carefully work this in the hole right here. I don't want to bore you with this, trying to get this in there, so I'll be right back. All right, so I just got disgusted with this thing, and I just pulled the fuel lines out, just like so, and I used my original grommet. It wasn't in very bad shape. This thing is junk. It's a little bit too big. All right, so let's go ahead and get this throttle back up in there. We might have to adjust this later. Just like so. All right, so make sure you're holding the carburetor the right way. The fuel input goes to the right. We've already got our rubber O-ring right here, so make sure that is there. Go ahead and push your screws through and put the gasket on, making sure the holes are facing toward the fuel line. There's two little holes right there. And we'll just screw it back on the same way it came off. All right, go ahead and cut your fuel lines to the right length you need. This one's already about the right size right here. All right, let's try the primer ball, see if we can get any fuel. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Cool. Let me put the air filter back on and we'll be back and see if she's running this time. All right, so before you start this thing, I would go ahead and take your fuel and air screw that's located right here and turn it all the way in and then back it out 1.5 turns. That's the way the factory had mine set already, but I was just double checking to give me a good starting point. As it turns out, seems to run pretty good right there. I would also take your idle screw that's located right here, you'll see it right here, and crank it in a little bit, that way to make sure the idle's not too slow, and then it won't start if the idle's too slow. So that's all I did. So let's go ahead and start this thing up and let it run. Turn the ignition on, that would help. Seems like it's back to its old self. Hope this video was helpful. Thanks for watching.